You're listening to The Hikam with Shaykh Zahir Bacchus of the Lotri Foundation. In this podcast, Shaykh Zahir explains the aphorisms from Ibn Ata'illah's famous book of wisdoms, Al-Hikam Al-Ata'iyah, a classical manual of spiritual development. Visit seekershub.org for online courses, our reliable answer service, and engaging media.
And not only did we pray Fajr, Salat al-Subh, but we also prayed it in Jama'ah. There's two things. We prayed Salat al-Fajr, we came to the mosque, we left our homes, came to the mosque, and we also prayed in Jama'ah. There's many good actions that was done this morning. Should we feel happy that we got up? What is it that should make our heart happy? Should it make our hearts happy that this is what we've done because the action came from ourselves, our effort? Or should our hearts feel happy because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired us to wake up and inspired us last night to intend that we're going to wake up early and come to the masjid today? And should we feel happy that it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gave us the strength to come this morning and gave us the ability to pray and gave us the ability to complete the prayer? That, if you consider, then every action comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates it and inspires it. He creates it and He inspires it. The Prophet ﷺ, the hadith, the Sahih Imam Ahmad, the Muslim Imam Ahmad, he says, "Man sabra hasanatuhu," whoever good deeds, sabra means he has surur, whoever's good deed makes him happy. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man sabra hasanatuhu," whoever good deeds makes him happy, and his evil deeds make him sad, and his bad deeds, the missteps that he does, the miscues that he does, make him sad. فَهُوَ mu'min, he is a believer. He is a believer. So this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, with this hikam of Ibn Ata'illah, what is it the same? It is the same. Man sarra hasana, whoever's good deeds make him happy. Why would his good deeds make him happy? Why would his good deeds make him happy? His good deeds should make him happy because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires in him and gave him the ability, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned for him, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends that notion to that believer. Listen, wake up. Listen, perform the salah. Do this good deed. Put your hand in your pocket and give to the ummah of the Prophet who is starving or who has difficulty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires in it. The shaitan comes and he wants to inspire you to do something else. All of it is inspiration. If Allah, look, the Prophet ﷺ, he says what? When the person is asleep, we'll toot salah because we just finished salah. The person who's asleep, what happens? When they have that notion to get up, they have that notion. That notion is from Allah. That notion from Allah. The Prophet ﷺ says the shaitan comes. And what does shaitan say? He says in his head in the morning, stay asleep. Stay asleep. Stay asleep. And knots are tied, 3 knots, the Prophet ﷺ. And when he gets up and he has a notion, one is a knot, when he makes wudu, another one, and so on and so forth. The shaitan puts notions in your head. He comes with notions. And this is the shaitan. And because he wants to take you away from performing good deeds. This is one of the ways. He wants to take you away from performing good deeds. Those notions there's other notions, and the other notions is the hand that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires in His servants to worship Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the inspirations, they come to the believer. They keep coming. And so if you perform a good deed, a good action, is it that you should feel happy that it came from you and your ability and your strength and so on? Or should you feel happy and rejoice over the fact that it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And this is what he's talking about. Feel happy over the fact that it came from Allah. Why? So that you do that, so that you separate it from yourself. So that you do not get arrogant about it. Arrogance steps into the servant when he sees that he is the one who is doing it. That he's the one who has the ability to do it. He made the effort, and so on and so forth. And other people are not making the effort. So what happens is that he distinguishes himself from others. And this is kibr. And this is from the shaitan. The shaitan wants you to feel happy over your acts of obedience. It's one of the ways he tricks believers who are practicing. How does a believer who is practicing, and maybe practicing for 40, 50, 60 years of his life, how does that believer then wake up as a disbeliever? The Prophet ﷺ said this. A believer may go to bed and then wake up as a disbeliever. A believer may have 40 years of worship and then go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a disbeliever. How does that happen? Because that believer has allowed himself to see his actions coming from himself instead of seeing the actions coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you see it coming from Allah, then you have shukr. If you see your actions coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it makes you happy, the actions are coming from Allah, it makes you happy. That's when you enter the door of shukr. وَقَلِيلًا شَاكِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that so very few people are thankful. So very few people are thankful. How is it that so many few people are thankful? So many few people are thankful, perhaps because they don't see that those actions that they're doing is inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That those actions are inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we have to give thanks. And we give thanks in what way? We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us and giving us the ability to know to perform our prayers, to give in sadaqah, to come for jama'ah, to help people, to perform fasting, to do what is right, to take care of our families, any of the good actions that you do, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought it to you and inspired it in you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created it for you to do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created it for you to do. And then he says, قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ. Say by the bounty of Allah, this is the Quran, say by the bounty of Allah and by His mercy. The Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, concerning this fadl and this rahmah, he says there's a number of opinions about it. The fadl, the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says is Islam. قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ, that it is Islam. Called by the fadl, the bounty of Allah, say by bringing Islam or making him submit, but وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ, and by the Prophet. And some opinions of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he also says rahmah is Quran. Say by the bounty of Allah is Islam and submission, and by His mercy the Quran. فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا, and with that let them rejoice. With that let them rejoice. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made and brought you to submit to Him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought the Quran to you as a guidance, as a means of guidance. فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا, and with that let them rejoice. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ, and it is better than that which they amass. It is better what? to look at what is the present, what is the verse فَلْيَفْرَهُ. What is it that the fa here is a marker of what is significant in the verse. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasize in the verse? فَلْيَفْرَهُ. Let them rejoice. What is it that you're going to rejoice over? Fadl and Rahmah. You're going to rejoice over what comes from Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what Allah is saying here in this verse. فَلْيَفْرَهُ. What is the believer should rejoice over? What should he rejoice over? What he has? What he has amassed? What he has gotten in dunya? What has he amassed in dunya? What houses and cars and whatnot? Status. He's amassed what in dunya? Status. People respect him. He's considered this. He's considered that. He has a good reputation. People think he's like this or think she's like this or whatnot. They've amassed. These are things they amass in this dunya. People call them sir or call them Mr. or call them whatever, or they're doctor this or they're this or they're that. Is that what should make you happy? Is that what should make you happy? That people see you and that people, they put you in a certain level and status and so on and so forth. Is that what should make you happy? That's mimma yajma'un. That's what they amass. That's what they amass. What does Allah فَلْيَفْرَهُ? What should make you happy? In the ayah, this is the ayah of Quran. What should make you happy? Fadl of Allah and Rahmah of Allah. That's what should make you happy. Make what? The heart happy. That's what should make the heart happy. The fadl of Allah subhanahu made you Muslim, made you submit, gave you the ability to worship Him. Wa rahmah, and Allah subhanahu brought the Quran. There's other opinion that the rahmah means ibadah, your worship itself. That should make you happy because it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa bi rahmati, and by His mercy. His mercy to open up the door for ta'ah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His mercy, opens up the door for worship, for obedience. He opens up the door to the servant to be obedient to Him. And so the prevention of rejoicing over actions that you see that came from you is a prevention against getting arrogant. And not only getting arrogant and feeling pride, but also distinguishing yourself from others. If you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has brought the actions to you and inspired you to do the actions, then you'll be thankful. You'll be thankful. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He could have not chosen you, chosen someone else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you. And so the servant leaves the action being thankful and humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of leaving the action being arrogant and prideful, because he sees that it came from him, and it came from his own effort, and it came from his strength and his might. But the servant sees that it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so it leaves him humble. This is the way that obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should leave us. Obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should not make us walk away from the good things that we do arrogant. That if you walk away from the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has helped you to do and has inspired you to do, and you walk away from it feeling arrogant, then you would not get the blessings, and you may not get the blessings of those actions. But walk away from the actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enabled you to do and inspired you to do and given you the conviction to do and the strength to do. Walk away from it humble as a servant who is pleased and who is grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ability and the inspiration to do it. And then maybe perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept the action from you, because it came from a place of gratefulness, and it came from a place of sincerity and ikhlas, and not from a place of showing to others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and guide us and forgive us and have mercy upon us.
Thank you for listening to The Hikam with Shaykh Zahir Bacchus. Help Seekers Hub spread the light of guidance to millions around the world by supporting us through monthly donations by going to seekershub.org/donate. Your donations are tax deductible in the US and Canada.